Most people searching for affordable places to live end up in the same trap. They find a cheap town, move there, and 6 months later, they understand exactly why it was cheap. This list started with 50 cities and cut hard. These 10 are the ones that actually held up. At number 10, we have Greenville, South Carolina. This city has been putting itself together for years, and the results are now hard to ignore. It has a walkable downtown lined with locally owned restaurants and shops, which almost never happens at this price point. The cost of living in Greenville sits well below the national average. That gap is real and consistent across multiple categories. Housing, groceries, and utilities all track lower than what most people moving from larger metros are used to paying on a monthly basis. The job market has grown steadily over the last decade. Manufacturing has always been the base here, but healthcare has expanded significantly and now adds a second layer of economic stability. That combination gives the city a range that single industry towns simply do not have. Greenville also puts residents within easy reach of the Blue Ridge Mountains to the northwest and the city of Charlotte to the northeast. That kind of geographic access normally comes with a much higher cost of living attached to it. Here it does not. The downtown core is the detail that keeps coming up when people who have actually moved here talk about it. It is maintained, it feels safe, and it has the kind of local character that most affordable cities lose the moment development money starts arriving. Greenville is not trying to be the next big thing. It is just a city that has gotten a lot of the basics right, at a price that most comparable places cannot match. That is a harder combination to find than most people realize, until they have searched for a while. On overall scoring, Greenville landed at number 10, not because it underperformed, but because 9 other cities pushed harder on the full set of criteria. What it offers is real. What comes next is simply more of it in different and sometimes unexpected ways. Coming in at number 9 is Huntsville, Alabama. This city is one of the most economically resilient, affordable cities in the entire country, and that is not a claim that gets thrown around loosely here. The numbers behind it are specific, and they are significant. Huntsville has deep ties to NASA and the U.S. defense industry. That relationship has created a concentration of high-paying engineering and technology jobs that is genuinely unusual for a city of its size. Most cities this affordable do not have a job market that looks anything like this one. Housing costs in Huntsville remain significantly lower than in comparable tech-heavy metros. What that means in practice is that a salary that would stretch uncomfortably in Austin or Seattle goes much further here. The gap between income and cost of living is one of the widest on this entire list. The city has also put real money into its art scene, green spaces, and infrastructure over the last several years. That kind of civic investment tends to signal where a city is heading, not just where it has been. Huntsville is clearly moving in one direction. Younger professionals and families relocating from higher-cost states have started arriving in noticeable numbers. That shift is important because it changes the character of a city over time. Huntsville is getting more diverse in the kinds of people choosing to build their lives there. The combination of federal employment anchors, private sector tech growth, and a cost of living that has not yet caught up with the opportunity is rare. Most cities with this employment profile already carry a premium price tag. Huntsville has not fully repriced yet. Number 9 landed where it did because the job market story here is unusually strong for a city at this price point. For anyone whose career sits anywhere near engineering, defense, or technology, this city deserves serious attention before the cost of living math changes. At number 8, we have Knoxville, Tennessee. This one makes the list for a combination of reasons that reinforce each other in a way that is hard to replicate. Low taxes, affordable housing, and access to genuine natural beauty all arrive together in the same package. Tennessee has no state income tax. That single fact changes what a paycheck actually buys. For a household earning a typical professional salary, the difference over a decade of living in a no-income tax state versus a high-income tax state adds up to a figure that is difficult to dismiss. The median home price in Knoxville sits well below the national median. That gap is not marginal. It is the kind of difference that determines whether a person can build equity or just keep paying rent in a market that keeps moving away from them. The University of Tennessee anchors the local economy and keeps the city from ever going fully quiet. There are events, sports, and community programming running through most of the year. That kind of consistent activity gives a city energy that purely residential, affordable towns tend to lack. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park sits less than an hour from Knoxville. It is one of the most visited national parks in the country, and it costs nothing to enter. For people who want outdoor access built into daily life rather than saved for vacations, that proximity matters enormously. Knoxville also benefits from being large enough to have real infrastructure and services while remaining small enough that traffic, density, and the general friction of big city life have not taken over. That middle ground is genuinely hard to find at any price point. Number 8 held its position because the no-income tax advantage stacks on top of housing affordability and outdoor access in a way that few cities can match. The Great Smoky Mountains alone would justify a visit. The cost of living makes a strong case for staying permanently. Coming in at number 7 is Columbus, Indiana. Most people hear this city mentioned and assume it is a placeholder on a list like this. Then they look into it, and their reaction shifts. Columbus consistently surprises people who actually take the time to examine it. The city is home to an extraordinary collection of modernist architecture. Buildings designed by some of the most celebrated architects of the 20th century are scattered throughout this town of roughly 50,000 people. That is not a detail that belongs in a city this size at this price point. That architectural legacy was funded largely by the Cummins Corporation over several decades. It was a deliberate civic investment by a major local employer, and the result is a physical environment that gives Columbus an identity completely unlike any comparable small Midwest city. The cost of living is low even by Midwest standards, which is already a lower baseline than most of the country. Housing in particular is the kind of affordable that makes people who have been searching in coastal markets feel like they have stepped into a different economic reality entirely. The employment base is built around manufacturing and engineering, and it is stable. Columbus is not a boom and bust story. It is a city with a long track record of steady economic function that does not tend to generate dramatic headlines in either direction. For a city of its size, Columbus carries a civic identity and cultural richness that far exceeds what most people would expect. Architecture tourism alone brings visitors from around the world to a small Indiana city that most Americans cannot place on a map. Number 7 is on this list because it keeps outperforming its size category. The architectural distinction, the stable employment, and the Midwest affordability all point in the same direction. Columbus is the kind of place that rewards the people who find it before everyone else does. At number 6, we have Chattanooga, Tennessee. This city has built a national reputation as a mid-sized place that consistently performs above what its population size would suggest. That reputation is earned, and the data behind it holds up under scrutiny. Chattanooga was one of the first cities in the United States to offer community-wide gigabit internet through its municipal utility. That happened long before remote work became standard. The city was not reacting to a trend. It was ahead of one, and that positioning paid off. That early infrastructure investment attracted remote workers and small tech businesses when few other affordable cities were even thinking about it. The result is a professional population in Chattanooga that skews younger and more economically active than the city's size and price point would typically produce. The city sits along the Tennessee River and is surrounded by ridgelines and gorges that make it a genuine hub for hiking, rock climbing, and cycling. The outdoor access here is not incidental. It is one of the primary reasons people choose this city over others with similar cost profiles. Housing in Chattanooga remains affordable. The downtown has been significantly revitalized over the past 15 years, and the results are visible in the quality of the commercial streets, the public spaces, and the overall condition of the built environment near the waterfront. Quality of life metrics for Chattanooga consistently place it near the top of rankings for cities in its population range. That is not just one organization's opinion. Multiple independent rankings across different measurement criteria keep pointing at the same city. Number 6 earned its spot because the combination of early tech infrastructure, outdoor access, revitalized downtown, and Tennessee's no-income tax advantage is hard to beat at this price. Chattanooga is the kind of city that raises the ceiling on what affordable living can actually look like. Coming in at number 5 is Fayetteville, Arkansas. This one benefits enormously from two forces that work together and reinforce each other. The University of Arkansas stabilizes the local economy, and the broader Northwest Arkansas region has developed into a legitimate corporate hub. Major companies including Walmart and Tyson Foods maintain significant presences in the region. That corporate concentration has pulled in a growing network of suppliers, vendors, and service businesses. The employment ecosystem in Northwest Arkansas is denser and more varied than the city's location might suggest. Housing costs in Fayetteville are low relative to the amenities the area provides. That ratio matters more than raw price. A city can be cheap and still be a bad deal if it offers very little. Fayetteville does not have that problem. The Ozark landscape surrounding the city provides outdoor recreation that draws serious outdoor enthusiasts from across the region. Trails, waterways, and forested terrain are accessible without long drives. That access has become a real factor in why certain demographics choose this area over larger metros. The food and art scene in Fayetteville is more developed than most outsiders expect. For a market of its size, the cultural offerings have grown significantly, driven partly by the university population and partly by the professional class that corporate growth has brought into the region. The Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art, located nearby in Bentonville, is one of the most significant art museums in the country, and it is free to enter. Having an institution of that caliber accessible within the daily range of where people live is genuinely unusual at this price point. Number 5 sits where it does, because the combination of university stability, corporate employment depth, and outdoor and cultural access at a low cost of living is difficult to find concentrated in one region. Northwest Arkansas has become more than the sum of its individual parts. At number 4, we have Sioux Falls, South Dakota. When taxes get factored fully into the picture, this city becomes one of the most financially favorable places to live in the entire United States. That is not a minor detail. It changes the math on a significant scale. South Dakota levies no state income tax, no state capital gains tax, and no corporate income tax. That combination creates measurable financial advantages for residents across a wide range of income levels, not just high earners. The tax structure here is genuinely different from most of the country. The local economy in Sioux Falls is diversified across healthcare, finance, retail, and agriculture. That spread reduces the city's exposure to sector-specific downturns. Unemployment rates here have historically tracked below the national average, which reflects the underlying stability of that diversified base. Housing costs in Sioux Falls are low by any national comparison. The city is clean and well managed, which is a detail that matters more than people tend to acknowledge when evaluating where to live. A low-cost city that is poorly maintained is a different proposition than one that is not. Violent crime rates in Sioux Falls sit below the average for cities of its size. That is not true of every affordable city on this list, and it is not automatically true of affordable cities in general. It is a specific advantage here that deserves to be stated clearly. The winters in Sioux Falls are cold, and they are not something to minimize. Anyone seriously considering this city needs to make peace with that reality. But for people who can handle a hard winter, the financial return over years of living there adds up to a real number. Number 4 is on this list because the tax environment, the employment stability, and the low housing cost all point in the same direction at once. Sioux Falls is not flashy. It is just one of the most financially sound places in the country to build a life if the numbers are what drive the decision. Coming in at number 3 is Tucson, Arizona. This city offers a cost of living that is noticeably lower than Phoenix while still delivering access to a warm climate, a major research university, and a cultural environment shaped by centuries of Native American, Mexican, and Spanish history. The University of Arizona brings tens of thousands of students and significant research funding into the local economy every year. That institutional presence creates consistent employment, stabilizes population levels, and ensures that the city has an ongoing pipeline of economic activity that does not depend on any single industry. The Sonoran Desert surrounding Tucson is one of the most biodiverse deserts in the world. That is not a promotional claim. It is a documented ecological distinction. The variety of plant and animal life in this region is exceptional by any global standard of desert environments. The city is encircled by multiple mountain ranges that offer hiking, birding, and stargazing within short drives of the urban core. The night skies around Tucson are protected by dark sky ordinances, making the area one of the best places in the continental United States for amateur astronomy. Tucson was designated a UNESCO City of Gastronomie, recognizing its deep and distinctive food culture. That designation reflects the city's layered culinary heritage and the degree to which local food traditions have been maintained and built upon, rather than replaced by generic commercial development. The warm climate is a real practical advantage for people coming from cold weather states. Lower heating costs, year-round outdoor activity, and the general quality of life shift that comes from consistent sunshine are factors that residents consistently name as central to why they stay. Number 3 landed here because it competes hard on culture, climate, natural environment, and university-driven economic stability at a price that Phoenix, which is right up the road, no longer offers. Tucson is the version of Arizona living that has not yet been fully priced out of reach. At number 2, we have Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Decades after the collapse of its steel industry, this city has done something that most post-industrial American cities have failed to do. It rebuilt itself around a completely different economic foundation and actually made it work at scale. Healthcare, education, robotics, and technology now anchor the Pittsburgh economy. Institutions like Carnegie Mellon University and the University of Pittsburgh sit at the center of that transformation. They attract research funding, talent, and spin-off companies that keep the economic engine running. Home prices in Pittsburgh remain dramatically lower than in cities with comparable amenities and job markets. That gap is not explained by the city being worse than its peers. It is largely a function of the steel-era population decline that left more housing stock than demand required for decades. The city's neighborhoods each carry their own distinct character and history. That sense of place is something that newer, more sprawling metros often lack entirely. Pittsburgh does not feel like one continuous suburb. It feels like a collection of communities that happen to share a city boundary. Infrastructure, public parks, and cultural institutions in Pittsburgh are well developed for a city of its size. The Carnegie Museums, the park system, and the public library network all reflect decades of civic investment that did not disappear when the steel economy did. The geography of Pittsburgh is unusual and visually striking. Three rivers converge in the city, and the terrain is hilly and varied in a way that gives it a physical character, unlike most American cities at any price point. That setting shapes how the city feels to live in daily. Number 2 is here, because it is one of the most compelling overall value propositions among mid-sized American cities. Strong universities, real job market depth, low housing costs, distinct neighborhoods, and serious cultural infrastructure all coexist in a city that most of the country still underestimates. But number 1 is where everything changes. At the top of this list is Duluth, Minnesota. This city sits at the western tip of Lake Superior, the largest freshwater lake in the world by surface area. And that geography defines nearly everything that makes it distinctive. Housing in Duluth is affordable in a way that still feels real. The city has not yet been discovered and repriced by the wave of remote workers and relocation trends that have pushed costs up in so many other previously affordable markets across the country. The natural environment surrounding Duluth is genuinely spectacular. The lake, the forested terrain, and the elevation changes create a physical setting that most people associate with places that cost far more to live in. Here, that scenery is simply the backdrop of ordinary daily life. The city has invested consistently in trails, parks, and waterfront access over many years. That investment means outdoor living is not an occasional event that requires planning and driving. It is built into the structure of how the city functions on a regular basis. The local economy in Duluth is stable and diversified across healthcare, shipping, and education. It is not a boom city, and it is not trying to be. It is a city with a track record of functioning steadily, which matters more than most people admit when choosing where to actually live. The community culture in Duluth is tight-knit in a way that supports local businesses and civic life. That kind of social infrastructure tends to develop in cities where people stay rather than pass through, and it produces a quality of daily life that raw economic data does not fully capture. For people who prioritize clean water, clean air, dramatic scenery, and a cost of living that still leaves room to build something, Duluth presents a combination that this entire analysis of 50 cities could not find replicated anywhere else at the same price. That is why it is number 1.